There was some much needed good news for federal Labor today. First, a bounce in the polls after the budget cash splash for families, and a thumbs up from the head of the federal Treasury over the budget surplus. Martin Parkinson has strongly endorsed the government's wafer-thin surplus, rejecting the view of some economists that the move back into the black should be more gradual. Andrew Robertson reports.
Last week's federal budget contained the biggest fiscal turnaround in Australia's history, a $44 billion deficit to a $1.5 billion surplus in just 12 months.
I think that the surplus could have been put off for another year. I think there's enough uncertainty in the global economy and potentially in parts of the non-mining economy to actually suggest that we could actually have a small deficit.
Joshua Williamson's view is widely shared among economists and business people, but not by Treasury Secretary Martin Parkinson.
The problem with this argument is that if it's not appropriate to restore the structural budget when we have a low unemployment and the economy is expected to grow around trend, when will it be appropriate?
In strongly endorsing the government's budget strategy, Dr Parkinson said you only have to look to the Eurozone crisis to see why now is the time for a surplus.
Many of those economies are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Monetary policy is at or close to the lower bound. Fiscal positions have been allowed to be in deficit for a long time, and they've been driven by the GFC in some situations to over 100% of GDP.
Dr Parkinson's speech came only hours after politicians in Greece failed to agree on how to form a workable government in negotiations with their country's president, a stalemate which once again rattled world financial markets.
The Greek public, the Greek citizens, and I'm respecting them, have to know that we agreed on a programme and that this programme has to be implemented.
As Europe continues to battle the fallout from the global financial crisis, Martin Parkinson gave an insight into the full cost of the GFC here in Australia.
Over the 2 years 07, 08 and 08, 09, households suffered total capital losses equivalent to almost a full year's net disposable income, which is a pretty significant number when you think about it. By contrast, neither the Asia crisis nor the dot-com bust resulted in any net capital loss for Australian households in aggregate.
Trying to help Australian households was a key factor in the Reserve Bank's decision to cut interest rates this month by 0.5 percentage point. The minutes of that meeting confirmed that low inflation, coupled with subdued economic growth and the certain knowledge that commercial banks would not pass on the total rate cut, prompted the RBA to be bold.
I think probably, though, that the minutes have been somewhat outdated by events in the last couple of weeks, and that is increasing concern about what a potential Greek exit would look like.
The minutes suggest the Reserve Bank will sit back and watch the results of its handiwork before deciding if any further rate cuts are necessary.